Yeah, so I mean, I just grabbed news from like the last, obviously the Walmart leak, some of the Days Gone stuff, Platinum Games working on some sort of top secret game, Sony E3, Cliffy B stuff, of course, because what's a Press X pod without Cliffy B?
Well, it might be all of them from now on if he keeps this up.
Oh, you come in loud and clear right now. Boom.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Press X, the podcast. It's the show from your friends at COGconnected, where we talk about games, we talk about culture, I don't know, we talk about stuff. And this week, you've got myself, I'm Paul, alongside me, back from the dead, it's Trevor Houston.
Heyo!
And becoming a regular on the show quite quickly, it's James Paley.
Hey, how's it going?
I don't know, guys. How is it going?
It's going good. You know what? I'm excited to do this pod with James because I'm looking forward to talking about giant fuck you robots and Norman Reedus space babies. So those two things alone, I'm quite excited to talk about today. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this pod with James. Of course, you, as always, Paul, but especially excited about doing this with James. He's a video games guru, a historian. Like, I have nowhere near the knowledge base that James has. So I'm always just impressed to hear him talk and impart his knowledge of video games upon us. So, and his humor.
My God, Trevor, you're going to give me such a swell head.
Yeah, you were on quite a roll last week, Mr. Paley.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about giant fuck-off robots and people pregnant with alien space children and, bread lines and such and such and such. Horse physics. I have thoughts, okay?
Yeah, we did have some thoughts last week. Did you guys actually see that Kojima is tweeting like nonstop about him editing the Death Stranding thing for E3?
No, I did not see that. You'll have to bring me up to speed.
Yeah, he's just been tweeting photos of him at a computer, talking about how he loves editing because it's just him and the content, and there's no barriers or anything like that. But a lot of the screenshots I've seen are kind of the stuff we've already seen. It's the baby in the esophagus and, all that stuff.
Baby of goo.
Well, it's like that crazy, shapy, shifty, oily stuff that rains from the sky, comes up from the ground, spits out of people's mouths. Presumably it fuels their pens, and their vehicles, and their guns. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
So is him at the computer like, hey guys, I got all this freedom. Is that kind of like a subtle dig at Konami? Like, hey, I'm not being locked away in a room, forced to work.
I can get up and go to the washroom. What a revelation.
I think every day that he gets to do shit and be a public figure and just work on whatever he wants, all of that are digs at Konami.
Konami. I think we actually have a couple of appointments with Konami this year, so I don't know what they will possibly be showing us, but I look forward to it.
Oh, they will be interesting, if nothing else.
I'm pulling up our docs right now, and yeah, I can't remember what it is we are seeing. I'm pretty sure PES is on the docket for them, but I can't remember what else. Maybe a driving game?
One's an unannounced title.
Yeah.
Okay, well that would do it.
So, Metal Gear iOS?
Yeah. Yay!
What everyone's been asking for all these years.
Ooh, guys, Castlevania Lords of Shadow 3.
Oh!
Boom.
Only if it's coming out on the original Nintendo DS.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm sure they can make it happen. They got a pachinko team. I'm sure they have a DS team.
Konami. We'll never understand you, and by God, we don't want to. Has anyone played any games?
I have played some games. I have. And I feel like I'm Well, I guess we're still in spoiler territory for God of War, aren't we? I can't really give too much away.
Mhm.
And I know you guys have talked about it to death over the past month, so I won't be long, but I think I fall in everybody else's camp. I love the game. It's beautiful. It's powerful. It's intense. I love the relationship between dad and son. But I love how the game just really encourages exploration. I love the puzzle solving. I'm really enjoying just taking my time. I'm probably taking a lot longer than most people would to play the game, but I'm really just sort of slowly plodding away. I feel like I'm close to the end. I'm at some sort of, and this might spoil it, just close your ears if this does spoil it for anyone. I'm doing these trials, and I feel like this is close to the end, but as I'm doing these trials, I'm wondering, is this some sort of side quest and not part of the single player campaign? So I'm doubting whether or not I'm in the right area, if this is part of the single player, if I'm getting towards the end. So I'm feel like I'm in limbo right now, but I am enjoying the challenge that those trials present, which is basically sort of a horde, if you guys haven't played that part yet. Paul, I imagine you have, but it's sort of like a horde mode in a way. It's probably a really bad description. But yeah, I'm enjoying doing those trials. I feel like I'm getting really close to the end. I love the progression in the game. The upgrades feel significant. I feel that I'm only scratching the surface. Even though I'm probably 30 hours in, I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface here. So that part is really cool. I feel like it's a game that I could sink another 60 hours in, no problem. And yeah, I'm loving it. Another game I played was South Park Fractured Butthole on the Switch, which is, it looks great. The combat's wonderful. It's everything you get in the PS4 and the Xbox versions, but holy hell, the load times are relentless and long. and I find them, it just gets in the way of enjoying the experience. Like, I want to be able to travel the neighborhood without a hiccup, but when I'm just moving into one area to a next, and I'm met with constant load screens, I just found that really got in the way of the enjoyment of the game. So while I was really optimistic, like, yes, I'm going to finish this on the Switch, I'm not so optimistic anymore because the load screens just fucking grate me. And another thing that grated me, a buddy of mine encouraged me to play Call of Duty World War II on the PS4 last night. And it's the first time I'd played Call of Duty since about November. And of course, the first map we go into is this map called Shipment, which is tiny. And so I ended up with 4 kills and 38 deaths.
Oh, Trev!
Yeah, do you even game, bro? So needless to say, that fucking sucked. Like, now, mind you, we jumped into hardcore mode and it got a little bit better. I wasn't as bad, but oh fuck. Has, like, the Call of Duty Father of Time, like, it has passed me. I need to retire my Call of Duty pistols and just let the kids play that game. I just feel so incompetent. So, but anyway, that's what I played in a nutshell. 3 games in 5 minutes.
You know what's funny about God of War is that it is so tremendous and it's such an achievement, and all the kudos to Corey and the team over at Santa Monica Studio. What really puts that in perspective is the game that I played this past week that I can't really talk about too much, but that's State of Decay 2.
Now, when does the embargo lift on that? Like, we're really close when this goes live. Probably that night.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, doesn't it?
Review impressions are embargoed until Thursday for reviews.
I look forward to that review.
Mm-hmm. So take my words
you don't sound too
however you like. There's no embargo on tone, so look forward to that.
Hmm. Well, I know it's a game that not many are excited about. Like, it's coming out. Is it out this week? Like on Friday?
I think it's out the 22nd, I want to say. So next week.
Oh, okay, so we still have a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week for sure.
Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
I sort of forgot that it was a thing until I had to put together that preview video. And then, that was the first thing that reminded me, since I think the game was first announced or what have you, which is probably not a good sign.
Let's just say that it's another feather in Microsoft's cap of first-party exclusives.
Fair.
Take that however you like.
a wilted, shriveled feather, or a powerful, strong, golden feather.
It could be either, to be honest with you.
Okay. Let's not get Paul. I guess ultimately I'd get in trouble too, I guess. Let's not get ourselves in trouble.
No, we won't get ourselves in trouble. I think we're well within our rights saying what we've said thus far. How about you, James? I know you played a few things.
That's absolutely correct. I've played a whole bunch of Yonder, the Cloudcatcher Chronicles on the Nintendo Switch, which has been a delightful experience. The game came out about a year ago, maybe a little less than a year, on the other platforms. Now, there's not too much new with the Nintendo Switch version. However, it does have a photo mode, which will be the bulk of my review. In a sense, it'll be a sort of journey where I'm traveling through the island and taking all these pictures, and it'll be sort of like a diary type story where I go into all the cool, pretty shit that I captured on film, and the fact that I actually don't know how to frame photographs properly, and I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, and this will become incredibly apparent with the few example photos that I share, but it's a farming sim, so I'm having a ton of fucking fun.
That's really what matters.
Yeah, I think so.
You really reeled in my attention when you said that the photo mode would be the bulk of your review experience. I'm very curious now.
Well, I mean, because there's nothing else new, so I'm going to have to spin up a real engrossing tale about my time as an amateur photographer on this island.
Well, your time as a Battletech fanfic writer will come in very handy at that point.
Oh, yeah. I also had a chance to play some of the Watchmaker, which has not been as pleasant an experience as Yonder the Cloudcatcher Chronicles.
Way to put it real gently, buddy.
Well, okay. So there's no embargo on impressions whatsoever, so I can just flat out say this right now. It uses this timed mechanism that is key to the whole experience that drives me up the fucking wall. Okay?
Don't hold back.
There was a Legend of Zelda DS game way back in the day called The Phantom Hourglass, which used a similar mechanic where the major dungeon was timed, and every time you made a mistake or something went wrong, you lost a little bit more time, and if you lost too much or fucked up, you had to do the whole dungeon over again. The Watchmaker is like that, but it's like the whole game is based on this rapidly slipping away, timey-wimey fucking thing, and it makes me crazy angry all the time. And it's been hard to put in the required amount of time to do a really objective review because I have such a personal vendetta against this style of mechanic.
Go on.
Yeah, so my review will be unkind, but I will be fair because I will be very upfront about the fact that this is something that I have struggled with and rallied against and spit venom about for well over 10 years.
All right, so what you're saying is that we're about to lose a PR contact.
Possibly yes.
I'm just kidding. PR doesn't give two shits what we give a game as far as the score goes. As long as we're covering their stuff and giving it a fair shake, that's what they care about. Because we are ethical journalists over here at COGconnected.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Hey. Speaking of ethical things, could we please get to the news?
The news.
Oh, how I've missed that voice.
Yeah.
Trevor. Welcome back, buddy. We're so glad to have you here.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, I guess let's talk about the big news, which is that Walmart Canada really shit the bed and
Why?
basically announced everything that's coming at E3 2018, including Splinter Cell, Rage 2, Borderlands 3, Gears of War 5, and more.
Well, and I think Bethesda basically they gave that leak a complete credibility. I mean, by basically announcing Rage 2 in a matter of days after that leak, they've kind of confirmed that that is a pretty legitimate leak. They really have.
Well, I mean, I feel like it had an air of legitimacy right from the get-go. Like, if this is some, like, hacker punk shithead who was like, oh, hey, guys, I got the scoop on these 30 things that are coming to E3, we'd be like, yeah, tell us another one. But then, like, a major international retailers does a fucking big old whoopsie and, like, gives away what I believe is about 25% of the announcements we'll be seeing at this year's show. It feels pretty real.
Yeah, some of the stuff's not a surprise. Like, I think we all see or saw a Gears of War 5 coming. Like, that's no that's no surprise. Forza Horizon, we all know there's a new Forza Horizon in the works. That's no surprise. And I even think we knew about Splinter Cell. I think you guys even talked about it last week.
Yep.
That a new Splinter Cell is probably going to be announced at E3. That really wasn't a bold prediction to say that we'd see a new Splinter Cell.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Walmart attributed the leaks to a glitch, saying that the titles were speculative, but I don't know that holds water when nobody was expecting Rage 2. Like, nobody would have expected that one.
Yeah, I almost don't understand some of the excitement behind Rage 2. Maybe it's some of that hive mind that Sean frequently talks about on the pod. That, like, oh, everybody's excited about it, shiny toy, woo! Yet, in reality, was the original Rage all that great? I mean, I think it scored okay, review-wise, and I think it sold okay, but I don't remember it being a mind-blowing, experience in any way. Did you guys play it? I never really, I don't think I might have played a demo at an E3 once upon a time, but that's about it. I never played the base game.
You know, I played some of it, but at the time it was basically just a showpiece for its engine. So it looked great, but in terms of the gameplay, like, it wasn't anything special, I didn't think.
I think I remember having some diehard fanatics in my friend group back when it came out. And I feel like Bethesda is going to take the existing property and, fuck with it in that way they do so well and spin it up into something that feels appropriate for their publishing umbrella. I think we'll have some of the base core concepts that made Rage, but I think they're going to take it and turn it into a completely different fucking thing, as evidenced by the trailer, which I enjoyed a lot. Maybe I'm just a really easy target for big, flashy, glitzy fucking nonsense, with a proper color palette.
Well, the full, I guess when this goes live, the full gameplay trailer, which releases on tomorrow, on Tuesday. So, and we actually, at COGconnected.com, that's COGconnected on Twitter, COGconnected on Instagram, COGconnected on Facebook. I am your company man. Had to throw that in. Make sure we get that shameless promo out there. But we will have the trailer right at embargo. Let me see. I'm opening my email. I believe 6 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow morning. We will have the as I'm scrambling to find it. Yeah, 7 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow, the gameplay trailer for Rage will be released. So Rage 2 will be released. So I'm curious to see what some of the gameplay looks like. Yeah, we'll see. I know Sean is quite looking forward to that. He's a big fan of the first one, so always curious to get his impressions on it.
Oh yeah.
If he ever gets back on the cast.
If he ever sells his house and gets back on the cast, that is correct.
One of his several houses that he made through illegitimate selling his opinion means as a journalist.
Yes, that's right. Getting paid for reviews. Yeah. Big stacks of cash for every one of those reviews.
You know what was really annoying today was when I had to clear all the stacks of cash away from my microphone in order to record this podcast. That was quite annoying.
It's so annoying.
I bought a broom specifically so I could push those huge piles of money around my apartment.
Each bristle is $100 bill.
Oh yeah, rolled up real tight. Very effective.
So in other news, I can't say for sure that this lends credence to my theory from last week, but Platinum Games is working on a top secret, unannounced project, which I desperately hope is Fable.
Yes, you guys talked about this last week.
Yeah, we did. We touched on this, that maybe Playground isn't the one making the Fable game, if there is one, and that possibly, Scalebound was canceled in order for Platinum to turn Fable into a Nier Automata with British humor.
Well, I know Playground is the rumored dev for Fable. I mean, I know that's the rumor that's going out there, but I think the smarter, wiser, and more fan-favorite choice would be Platinum Games to work on a Fable, or the next Fable. So...
Totally.
Yeah.
I feel like tonally Platinum Games is a bit too distant from that franchise, and I feel like the shift would be of almost Whiplash levels, but maybe I just haven't dived into enough of the Platinum Games library. I don't know. Feel free to prove me wrong. Future announcements over the next month.
I'm racking my brain right now, going through their library and going, nope, not really that. Oh, that's not quite Fable. Maybe not.
Basically, they're really good at making games that are flashy, glitzy, full of action, and of questionable maturity. Like it's a great description of a portion of their library. I don't know if it's every title, but there's a few to which that applies. Mm-hmm. And is that a Fable kind of feeling,
That's a good question. Did you play Nier, James?
I have messed around with it a bit, and it is more serious in tone.
Mm-hmm. I think that whichever team within Platinum did Nier, I think that's kind of a turning point for the studio, in that they were able to weave this pretty careful narrative into that glitz and glamour that they're known for. So playing on the surface or just playing for a few hours, you definitely wouldn't get the full story or the full experience of playing Nier Automata. But I would be confident to say if you dove back in and played it through all the way to the end, you'd be much more confident in Platinum's ability to craft that kind of narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it compared to Playground. Playground's only done racing games, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that sounded like a hearty beer right there.
It was. It was a Bomber Park Life Passion Fruit Ale, friend of the show, Bomber Brewing Company from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Sounds like a perfect summer beer.
Oh, it's delicious. My word.
But, what was I saying? But yeah, Playground, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Playground has only ever done racing games. So, would they really be a better fit for Fable?
Okay, wait a minute. What if it's a Fable kart racer?
Oh, God, I don't know about that.
Oh, come on. You don't tell me you wouldn't enjoy ripping around an old-timey fantasy-style racetrack with, like, horses or carts or whatever the fuck. With all those, like, raucous characters. Come on.
Oh.
All kinds of English fart jokes.
Oh.
that is not what Microsoft needs. That's not what Xbox needs at E3 this year. That's not going to help them hit a home run.
Trev, they need
need a home run.
They need anything they can get their hands on. They need any games whatsoever.
They just need an infield single. Just an infield single.
Yeah.
If they can get on base, that's a very good start.
Let's have Xbox get on base.
Yeah, infield single based on an error, I think they'd take it.
At this point, yes. They'd probably take it.
Speaking of E3, Sony has revealed their E3 showcase, finalizing all the E3 schedules of this coming show, and they're kind of breaking with their usual tradition. Sounds like they're not doing a big theater show like they've usually done. Past few years, that's been at the Shrine Auditorium down in LA, and I know I've noticed that people at the show or in the audience have a way different opinion of the show than people who watched it on the stream. Usually it came across a lot better in person than it did on the stream. So they're changing that up this year and doing a bit more of a stream-friendly show.
Huh. That's interesting because you're right. When we're at the show, which I've been to, good Christ, I've probably been to 8 or 9 Sony press conferences. It's always the most exciting press conference. Like you really get amped up for the experience, and it isn't those free Coronas before the show. You really legitimately get pretty excited before a Sony press conference. So I'm surprised that they're going to get away from that. I still feel like they're being a bit vague. I don't know what they mean. By focusing on just what they say, they're focusing on 4 titles. That's it.
Well, they've said that there will be large sections focusing on 4 huge titles, those being Death Stranding, Spider-Man, Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima. But I'm sure there will be their usual stable of announcements and indies and updates and things like that.
Yeah.
I would be shocked to hear them talk about the Vita, and I would be borderline shocked to see them focus on PSVR.
And I don't think we'll hear about PS5. I really don't.
Hell no.
I think
I give that 0% chance.
I think a lot of people, like I've heard a lot of speculation from a lot of people over the last 6 months. So oh, when are we gonna get PS5? We're gonna get PS5 by 2019 or 2020. And no to all of that. No to everything that you just said. They're not in any hurry to push past this particular plateau they've reached at present. Like they're still outselling Xbox. What is it? That recent number was like 2.5 to 1.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous margin. They have no reason to be the first out of the gate.
Right,
with their new system.
And the PS4 Pro is not that old. What are we, a year into the PS4 Pro? Maybe, not even. So they're still going to want to push that hardware. Part of me thinks there's I don't know if there's a 0% chance, maybe a 2% chance they tease something, but Sony's not really known for teasing their hardware like that at E3. So I don't think we'll see anything. If we do, maybe some sort of teaser, an outside chance, but I doubt it. I don't know. I think I've said before that 2020 seems right for a PS5, but I think I agree with you, James. That seems a bit early. But then again, I have been wrong so many times when it comes to when I think consoles will be released. Mm-hmm. So it's tough to say. But yeah, the PS4 is going strong. Their games kick ass. Why would they upset the momentum at this point?
I think we're kind of in a situation right now where everybody's probably working on some shit. We won't hear anything until the first of the big companies decides to make a move. Like basically whoever stumbles through the gate first when it comes to teasers or announcements or leaks or rumors, as soon as one company starts doing that, then slowly but surely the other guys will be like, oh, coincidentally, we're also working on our next super hot fucking piece of hardware. What do you know?
I think the next generation is going to absolutely be the showdown at the old saloon where Sony and Microsoft are standing out front and they're looking at each other and nobody's touching their gun. because, you know, you don't want to be the person who goes first, because that totally screwed over Microsoft in this generation when they came out with the $599 and all the TV stuff, and then Sony said, you know, whatever, we're $100 less, or $499, $399, whatever it was at launch. And, you know, they took the generation from there. There was no backing down from that momentum. And, you know, I don't think either of them are going to want to pull the trigger first. I think they're just going to ride this wave until Microsoft goes, okay, we need to make some money. There needs to be new hardware.
I think when Xbox looks back at this generation, they'll look at it as it was a lost opportunity. It was an opportunity for them to do really well, to build off that momentum from the 360 and just keep things going. But they just fucked it right up. Like, it just didn't. They really did. They had, you know, in not so many words, they had the PlayStation by the throat, and they could have gone for the jugular, but they just couldn't do it. And to me, they just failed when it came to exclusives. They just didn't deliver on exclusives like they should have. Nowhere near to where Sony delivered.
I mean, I appreciate Microsoft's effort to innovate and do something different this generation, but I think it was too quick. They innovated with the 360 and it was super successful. I think they should have tweaked that a little bit and stuck with it. That's exactly what Sony did with the PS4. They just took the 360 formula and made a PlayStation and said, you know, look at all these amazing exclusives Microsoft had in the 360 era. Let's make our own. Let's make this huge stable, and let's just keep them coming for the entire lifetime of this system. And they're delivering.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
Microsoft is not.
No, I mean, it's funny because the Xbox still remains my console of choice. Like, I prefer playing on my Xbox over my PlayStation. So I'm not just spewing that from a Sony fanboy perspective. I'm just like, you just have to look at the sales. Like, look at the sales, and then when you try to wrap your head about, well, why is PlayStation so much more dominant than Xbox One? Well, it comes down to the games, and that's where people will gravitate to.
You know, this isn't in the news this week, or I don't remember where I saw this. It might have been earlier today. Someone apparently leaked some information about why Crackdown was delayed. And
really?
Basically, it was ready for launch last fall, but someone in the higher ups, probably Phil Spencer, decided that they needed to delay it to put together some additional features so that the franchise continues to be viable past this iteration.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that ever went up on our news or where I saw that. I don't know. I might have dreamed it. To be honest with you, I don't remember where I saw it. So. But hey, it's a good story.
Ah, shit. Never mind, guys. I dreamt that. It makes sense, though. I mean, you know, a few of us on staff were okay. No, I'll just cut. Sean was happy with Crackdown 383 last year. He was very happy. I'm just launching him.
It.
I'm throwing him under the bus. He was the only guy in the world that loved it. Everybody else hated it. No, but in all, he did really enjoy it. I thought I had more of a meh reaction to it. It was okay. I really didn't get a good feel for the game for like the 10-minute demo we played. Yeah, so I was happy with the delayed announcements because to me it meant, okay, they're going to really polish this sucker and just make it that much better. Because I loved the original Crackdown. I didn't care so much for Crackdown 2, but I loved that original game. So I really want this game to be excellent, and Microsoft needs it to be excellent.
Yep, here's hoping that it is fantastic. What other news do we have going on here?
What might be our last Cliffy B news story for quite a while.
Oh, say it ain't so.
We've been milking the Cliffy B news for weeks now. For just wheezing that juice.
Oh, for those who haven't heard, it is sad days. Bosky Studios has shut down, and Cliff Blezinski is in the wind. He's out of the industry for the time being, maybe coming back someday, but he has had enough.
Yeah, if I was in his shoes, I would probably have done something similar. I also would not have done what he did with Radical fucking Heights, but hey, this is all hypothetical at this point.
Hey man, that game was radical, all right? It was to new heights.
Did you guys even play that game? I never played it.
No.
I'll be honest, it looked way too shitty to even consider playing.
Yeah, I mean, look, any time a studio goes down, that's never good news. I mean, you think of all the devs and their lives and their families that are that have to cope with this kind of thing. So that's always the shitty part of hearing when studios close like this. So yeah, my heart goes out to all those hardworking people. I know we like to rag on Cliffy, but there's all those other guys, talented guys behind the scenes. I mean, Lawbreakers, it really was a good game that was probably lack of timing, maybe, is what prevented it from taking off, or just hitting a market that was already saturated. Yeah. With other arena shooters. Like, I don't know.
That's exactly what Cliff said in his statement, is that Lawbreakers was a great game that unfortunately just failed to gain traction. So in a last-ditch effort to kind of save the studio and do something that mattered, they decided to take on the Battle Royale format, and even though it was well-received, it was just too late, too late for the studio to survive, and they had to shut her down.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, it really is. It's kind of sad. But shit.
I don't know. I feel like there was such crazy hype for Lawbreakers. Like, I remember when at their booth or their space at E3 was fucking enormous, and it was big crowds of people, and they're all like screaming, "Oh, 3, 2, 1, fuck gravity!" It's just like, oh yeah, and everybody's just rah rah rah. But and I feel like it baffles me that Lawbreakers went the way it did. I'm not even slightly surprised at the fate of Radical Heights.
Well, hopefully Cliff takes his massive game-producing brain off to a tropical island and spends a good long time thinking of whatever the next thing is that's not Lawbreakers, it's not Battle Royale, it's something else that's going to change the game. We do know he has that capacity because Gears of War, whether or not you like that series, it absolutely changed the way shooters are.
Oh yeah. I think a great move for him would be to take a couple years off, relax, think about his life, and if he's going to come back with a much smaller studio. Like, come back with a smaller studio and a smaller budget, and like in such a fashion that he doesn't have to like change the face of fucking gaming upon his return. Just come in and make something cool. Like, don't make something that has to sell millions of copies or else 30 families are going out in the fucking streets. Just, come back a little smaller.
That's a really good point.
Hey, he's got some time. He's got some time to think about it.
Let's just forward the link to this podcast to Cliff, and, he can use that however he sees fit, and then distribute the review money accordingly so that, James, you can get that third boat I know you were looking at this weekend.
Oh, God, it'd be so good to get a third boat.
And last but not least, in the news this week, the Final Fantasy VII Remake will reportedly release by 2023.
Sorry.
It's just around the corner.
Hold on, there's a semicolon. And series legend Nobuo Uematsu will be on board producing and writing the music for that game.
Okay, hot take coming in quick. Everybody, strap on your fucking helmets. Fuck this game. Seriously. Like, and because, like, what was it first announced? Like 2013, 2014, like way back in the day? Something like that, right?
I think it was 2015.
2015, okay, so...
When it was announced? Is that what you're saying? 2015 was when?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 8 years in development. Now that's a long time for any game, let alone a
remake.
A remake. Jesus.
I don't, I'm again, I'm not a huge Final Fantasy guy, but I don't quite understand the excitement over this remake. I mean, can you guys explain it to me?
Sure.
Why there is such excitement over this particular remake? Because we have seen so many remakes over the years that absolutely shit the bed. So why is this one so special? Why are people so excited for this? Explain it to me.
Sure. Simply put, Final Fantasy VII was, for an entire generation of gamers, their first exposure to a serious, long, crazy RPG, like a story-dense experience. And so for a whole bunch of people, this is the one that stands out in their mind when they think, what was the first game that really sucked me in and caused me to lose sleep for days or weeks at a time? What was the game that got me into RPGs? What was the game that got me into, like, modern console gaming? What was the game that basically changed and shaped my fucking childhood or my teenage years? And it's Final Fantasy VII. Although, a couple of good salient points to keep in mind. The game in its original form is fucking bananas. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The story is a long, drawn out, overly complicated pile of hot nonsense. There's a really touching, powerful scene at one point where one character is stabbed through the guts by the main villain with a fucking huge sword, and it's a big, horrible thing. We were like, oh my god, we lost this character. They're gone forever. It's so sad. Holy shit. The very next scene is a snowboarding mini game. And just like that is the atonal, like, clown car that is the story for this game. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I played it front to back like 4 or 5 times. I 100%ed it. I fought all the secret bosses. I got the crazy weapons. I bred the chocobos. I did all that shit. I fucking love Final Fantasy VII. There's no reason to remake this game. It does not translate to a modern audience at all.
Yeah, no, not even close. I think that's part of the reason why it has proved so hard for them to truly remake it instead of remastering it. Like, how do you get these characters that resonate for that whole generation to transfer over to a new audience while still maintaining that old audience who you need to pay for the development of the remake? I don't know. It's tough, but I think the addition of Uematsu writing the music, or at least rewriting the Final Fantasy VII music, I think that's a good step in the right direction.
Ooh, another thing that is part of the old game that they will have no feasible way of making modern is there is a huge section when they're still in the first city where they have to get Cloud, the main character, to cross-dress convincingly enough to get let in to Don Corneo's mansion so that hopefully he picks Cloud to take back to his room and fuck so that they can confront him and get information out of him. And I'm still leaving out bits of this particular section of the game that are even weirder. Like, just, I guess, good luck?
You know, they got around that, though, in the American version of the original game by just translating it horribly so that the censors read it and just did not realize what was going on.
Yeah. I mean, you just give it a quick pass to like, oh, this isn't so bad. It's like, no, this is a brothel. They're putting him in a wig and a dress so that Don Corneo will want to fuck him. It's pretty amazing.
You know, Don Corneo's a pretty good character. I'd like to see that spin-off. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Don Corneo. I'd like to see where that game goes.
Wouldn't we all, Paul? Wouldn't we all?
Well, we can look forward to this remake when I'm almost 50 years old. So
yeah, it's going to be great.
Which is a sad thought. Oh, God. I'm going to be almost 50 when that remake comes out.
You know, I still expect them to say something about it or show something about it at this year's E3, whether that's an actual gameplay demo or just another trailer. I think they got to keep that hype rolling a little bit.
How about a 6-minute apology video from the new director after they fired the entire fucking team?
That would be very in character. I'd like to see that too. All right. That's going to bring us to the end of the news for this week. It was a big week.
It was.
Lots of news.
So, last week we kind of went out of order and we did the perfect list real early. Should we go back to the old ways and talk about the email? The email? The email?
Sure. Let's do this.
Yes, please.
Sorry, that was terrible.
It was delightful, Trevor. Never apologize.
So we got a couple of messages in the inbox, which is at pressxpodcast@gmail.com. That's pressxpodcast@gmail.com. And this first one comes in from Eddie, who says, as a full-time college student who also works 40 hours a week, I'm loving the versatility of the Switch. While I truly prefer my play on my PS4 Pro, comfortably in front of a large 4K TV, brackets God of War is breathtaking, I can't deny the convenience of being a busy gamer and owning Nintendo's latest innovation in the console/handheld market. I'm definitely that person that wishes for a Switch port of every game. So my question to each of you is, what is your preferred way to play games, and why?
Ooh. Well, it's funny because as I was on the plane to Florida, and I'm playing South Park on the Switch, and I'm just marveling at playing this AAA game on a portable gaming machine. I'll pretend like I'm truly 50 years old right now by calling it a machine. my video game machine. And I'm showing and so I'm showing my wife. I'm like, "Honey, this is the coolest thing. Like, look at this. It's a AAA game and it takes 20 hours and look, I'm able to play this on the plane." And of course she rolls her eyes. "Yeah, that's cool, honey. Like, yeah. Okay, go away. Go play your game." But it really is pretty cool that I can play a Switch on the go. So on the go, I love playing my Switch in portable mode, but my preferred method is, of course, on the couch with my legs up, with my beer at my side, and kicking back and, yes, playing good old God of War, and fully relax with my headphones on. That is ultimately my preferred way to play.
I am right there with you, Trev. I love the Switch. I love the flexibility that brings to your ability to game. But ultimately, I always am going to gravitate back to relaxing on a couch.
Yeah.
If it's something like an RTS or some kind of grand strategy game, then I'm happy to sit at my desk in a desk chair and play with a keyboard, because that's the way you got to do that. But ultimately, if it's possible, I do want to be reclined, and I do want access to at least one beer and some snacks while I'm playing.
Yeah, I mean, I went through a period where I was playing Zelda for a good month in bed. But what I found I was doing is I was sitting there in bed and I was playing the Switch, and then next thing you know, it's 1 a.m, and I'm like, holy fuck, I got to get up for work in like 5 hours. So I had to put a full stop to that ridiculousness altogether. And while I like being able to lay down in bed and play the Switch, like, that was wonderful, but fuck, it was keeping me up all night. So I couldn't do that. So I'm back to my preferred way, on the couch, fully relaxed, headphones on, completely immersed.
I'm pretty similar in that when I'm traveling, it tends to be with the Switch, although lately it's like not been a situation where I can just sort of do that on the go. I tend to be doing other things while I'm traveling, like working or reading. So basically, if the TV's in use, it's the Nintendo Switch. If the TV's not in use, then it's probably the PS4 or, the PC. The Switch just is so convenient that it sort of fits into that space where you're like, oh, this is a portable machine. It can be a home console, but for all intents and purposes, it's a portable. And the other pre-existing consoles are the ones that tend to like sit comfortably in that home gaming space.
So here's a question for you guys. Say you're traveling to or from a large video gaming event, do you game or do you not game?
Ooh, for me it depends. It depends. I've typed many an article on a plane, but lately I have been hauling out that Switch and I've been gaming on the go. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There's like a couple games coming out for Switch in time for the E3 trip, and I'm taking it with me specifically for those games.
Oh yeah. I'll be bringing my Switch.
James, go on. What games?
That 8-bit Bloodstained is coming out at the end of May,
yeah.
and I'm hyped as fuck for that. I want that in the Switch. And Fox and Force is coming out for the Switch, and I am super hyped about that fucking game.
Yeah, that game does look really rad. On to the next email, which comes in from frequent listener / Facebook participant / emailer. It's John, aka Crazy Jerry Mouse 555 or whatever his number is. I don't know.
Hey,
Crazy Jerry Mouse.
Crazy Jerry Mouse.
Who has a very controversial opinion that I'm pretty sure I disagree with. Anyways, he says, "Hello, gang. I'm not a fan of The Last of Us. I think it's..."
What?
Yeah, that's not even a period. There's a comma there. I'm not a fan of The Last of Us.
You know what? How can you not be? Anyway, continue.
He says, "I think it's fine, but it always seems to be these games are highly regarded because of their story and identity as a single-player experience. And that's just the thing. There's this thought that single-player games are dying, and I'm wondering if it's because many people think that God of War and Last of Us and Assassin's Creed Origins are the main representatives of single-player. People praise them as being these catalysts to legitimacy of games as an art form. It's okay to love a game and that these games are actually good, but this train of thought is something that I find insulting because single-player games have always existed and have already proven legitimacy for the art form way before now. My point in all this is that if people are confusing imitation to an art form as being art instead of considering what games are unique, because I frankly don't think this crutch, not dependence on emotional narrative, is not that helpful to games in the long run. And I think that might ruffle some feathers here. Sorry. Sincerely, John."
Well, I don't personally play a ton of any of the games that were mentioned in this email, so I'm probably in a similar camp of opinion, so to speak. I think that games as a single-player art form take a great deal of different forms, and like the idea of these story-driven, emotionally resonant video games as art or imitations of art has gained a lot of traction recently because they're analogous to cinema as an art form. It's something we can identify with that way. And it sort of bridges the gap where it's like, oh, it's just like watching a movie. You play this amazing game. It's just like you've got this incredible movie happening. It's like, okay, great, but there's other ways to engage with games and to create games as just fun or as art or whatever the fuck you want that don't require cinematic, emotionally resonant stories.
Yeah, I agree with you, James. I think that the Last of Us of the world are a subset of single-player experiences that are emotionally resonant, but there's all kinds of other ones out there. You know, it doesn't have to be this big cinematic thing where there's some kind of combat and it's third person and yada yada yada. You know, there are games like What Remains of Edith Finch and Gone Home, and those games are super emotionally resonant. And on the other, I guess not the end of the spectrum, but another point on the spectrum is games like Papers, Please that are emotionally resonant, but they aren't that big budget flashy thing. They rely purely on their story to propel the player forward and make them think about what their actions are causing in the world.
Oh, another good example of emotionally resonant single-player experiences. To the Moon was an indie game that came out a few years ago. It's like a 2D Super NES style game that is a real fucking heartbreaker, and it's not cinematic at all. It's like It's a heartfelt, beautiful, well-crafted, sprite-based experience that doesn't rely on that like resemblance of a cinematic kind of fucking time in order to get people like hooked. It's just a great example of like games as an artistic medium that don't require that in order to be considered or seen as legitimate.
First of all, I find it, I kind of laugh when people say single player games are dying. Like, where is the evidence behind that? Like, let's just, God of War, let's look at God of War. Let's look at Mario, Zelda, Far Cry 5, Spider-Man that's coming out, Last of Us 2 that's coming out, Gears 5 will probably have a hell of a single player. Like, I just don't see where single player is dying. Maybe people are pointing because the new Call of Duty is allegedly not going to have a single player mode and is ditching that in favor of a battle royale. Maybe that's what people are pointing at. Maybe people are pointing at the success of Fortnite, PUBG, Overwatch, that those are multiplayer games that are selling really well. I think what you're seeing a market where I think both styles can thrive. You will still see the Fortnite that is absolutely that explodes and is the biggest game on the planet. PUBG is huge. Overwatch was huge. Well, at least it was. It still is huge. But I think you'll also see the God of Wars sell really well, and those are single player experiences. The Marios, the Zeldas. So I think there's I don't think the single player genre or single player games are dying. I think they're still doing really well. I just think there's a lot of attention being played to these multiplayer experiences that are blowing up, where Drake is playing with Ninja, and you know what I mean? So,
from a numbers perspective, I can kind of understand why people get that sort of skittish about it, because, like, for example, Breath of the Wild is like considered right now to be the best-selling Zelda game if you don't count like remasters and re-releases, and it clocks in at like 10 or 11 million sold. Okay, and that's fine. That's nothing to sneeze at. Then you get like games like Fortnite, which make, I don't know, as much as the gross domestic product of a couple of fucking countries put together every month, and people are like, oh, well, if Fortnite's making all this money and single player games only making this amount of money, clearly one is gonna kick the other out. And I'm like, nah, guys, it's a real big fucking table. There's room for everybody.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're, you put games that have a narrative and you kind of wall those off, saying that those games are going to die is like saying that fiction books are going to die. They just aren't. It's not the case, because there's always somebody who's going to be interested in those stories and want to interact with those stories. There's a huge base of people that are interested in interacting with narratives in that fashion, in an interactive way, using a controller instead of using their thumbs to thumb through pages of a book.
Yeah,
fully agree.
Totally.
Agree.
Yeah, take that, John. That's what we think of your question.
But hey, he's not the only one that feels this way. There's a lot of people out there that feel like, single player games are dying, and here's why. So he's not the only one.
No, absolutely not. And that's what makes me really happy that God of War has done so well. It sold 3 million copies in the first week. That's fantastic for those of us that do like a little bit of narrative along with their killing.
I mean, to put things in perspective, the original Rage game sold almost 3 million. I have, according to my notes here, Rage sold almost 3 million. So God of War beat that in less than a week.
It's pretty good.
Okay, so
pretty good.
So I have a question. Typically,
and that's three. Whoa, hold on. That's 3 platforms. That's PS3, that's Xbox 360, and that's PC.
Wow.
God of War still beat it
in a week. Wow. So, assuming that Bethesda at Bethesda Land this year talks about Rage, for those that don't know, typically Bethesda has, in their event after their show, they have at least one station for each game, and they've got some kind of food, some kind of drink that goes along with that game. So every year when they announce a new Skyrim, they're giving out turkey legs and, things like that. So when they talk about Rage 2, what's that station look like?
Deep fried rabbit, maybe. I don't know.
All right. Okay.
Hardest possible pass.
We'll go with the deep fried rabbit. I like that answer.
Deep fried rabbit that'll soak up all that booze.
Oh.
Ooh. They'll have alcohol like that looks like they home brewed it in big like vats like fucking oil drums. And they'll just like they'll hand it out in these gross like the tankards but like grosser looking and be like, yeah, check it out, it's your Apocalypse Mad Max brew, and then people will taste it and only 1 or 2 people will go blind and it'll be a huge smashing success.
All right, I'm on board with that. As long as the fried rabbit comes along, I think we can deal with that.
All right.
You guys want to talk about the releases this week?
Of which I really don't know too much about. Well, the first 2 titles I really know nothing about.
Well, one of those titles is Fox and Forest, which James has alluded to already.
Yeah, it's a retro style like game modeled after like the Super NES era, but where a lot of other retro games are like, oh well, we're gonna kind of adopt that aesthetic like a little bit, where they try to put their own spin on it. This is a fucking Super NES game. Okay, like I can't stress this enough. Like they have perfectly reproduced the aesthetic. Like just from the couple of trailers I've seen, this is a Super NES game, and it's kind of amazing if you grew up in that particular era. It's like the fidelity to that extent is fucking unreal. I'm really excited.
I could not be more excited based on that description.
Cool.
Does anyone know about Little Witch Academia Chamber of Time?
I do.
Good, because I don't
Please,
know a goddamn
please
thing.
go ahead.
Okay, so Little Witch Academia is a anime series by a studio called Trigger, which is famous for making shows that are real fucking wacky in their animation and where the stories tend to go a little bit too far and get a little bit crazy. And this is kind of a break for the studio from that, where it's just like a heartwarming kind of like Harry Potter type story where a bunch of girls are going to study magic and become witches, except their protagonist is a complete and utter fuck up who can't do anything right to save her life, and it's fun,
Okay.
Yeah. So like Harry Potter, if it was all girls and the main character was completely incompetent.
All right. I would kind of argue that the main character in Harry Potter was completely incompetent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. He was extremely lucky, but he had no skill to speak of.
No, he was quite fortunate to have the friends that he did.
Okay, and next is State of Decay 2. Okay,
that's out on Friday actually. State of Decay, according to our docs.
Is it? It's on the 18th.
May 18th. It's out this Friday.
Oh.
So yeah.
Well then, yeah, look forward to that. It's out on Game Pass, so anybody who's got Game Pass, you can play it along with your friends. Yeah, it's got 4-player co-op, so that's probably the way to go about playing this game if you're going to play it.
Okay, good to know.
And finally, we've got Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition on the Switch from the masters at Koei Tecmo and Omega Force. That is where you are Link, and you're playing Dynasty Warriors.
Which in our review of that should be live. Ooh, I want to say tomorrow morning, which would be Tuesday. So it should be live by the time this podcast goes live. Actually, I was wrong. Wednesday morning it goes live. So right around the time the pod goes live, that review will go live.
That's right. It went live this morning, Trev.
Yeah. You guys talked about that last week. Are we supposed to talk in present time or past time? Like, how are we supposed to address the future?
Both,
yeah,
and never acknowledge which one it is.
Yeah, we
just completely butcher both.
We discussed it briefly after the cast, and we could not come to a conclusion. So the answer is both and neither at the same time.
That's perfect. Right. That's why we're a pile of hot nonsense.
Well,
and yeah, with that, I think we should move on to the perfect list.
Do it.
Okay. Let's get to that perfect list.
And this week's perfect list is actually based on a news story that I kind of skipped over. So maybe we should talk about that news story.
Well, we can acknowledge that it happened.
We'll acknowledge the news, and that is the fact that there was news about Days Gone.
There was.
And the fact that there is, 1, no difficulty setting, and 2, it's going to be a good long game of 30 hours or so.
Yeah, to me, like when I watched the, I didn't watch the full hour, but Game Informer had like 1 hour of gameplay that they played. The first hour, actually, they showed on their YouTube channel and their site, obviously. To me, it almost had and I could be way off base, a Far Cry 5 / Last of Us vibe. It's open world. There's zombies full on chasing, sprinting towards you in massive droves. So it seems to me that the game will be, to me, quite a challenge. And that's definitely what Game Informer is reporting, that it is quite a challenge. Yeah, I mean, it's got pretty cutscenes. Looks to be pretty intense. Looks like there's lots of collecting shit. It's got everything that you'd want in sort of those big open world type games. Am I seeing anything particularly innovative from what I've seen? Not really. It's more of it's got more of a been there, done that feel to what I've seen so far. That being said, I like what I see, and I probably will play it. I just don't know if we'll see anything incredibly innovative.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to actually getting hands-on with this one, because the immediate impression I got from it is that it's going to be a lot of fun to come up with crazy plans for how you're going to get to an objective and then try to pull it off. Because with that amount of zombies, like, things are always going to go wrong. Things are always going to go sideways. So I think coming up with some elaborate and absurd plan of how you're going to drop all the zombies into a river and then get to your objective, I think that kind of stuff is where this game's going to succeed, if it's going to succeed.
Agree.
Yeah. So anyways, that was the news story that I don't know. I don't know why I didn't bother talking about that, but we didn't bother talking about it back in the day. And now we can go on to the perfect list, which is based on Days Gone and also State of Decay 2. And we're going to come up with a list of 10 perfect zombie game experiences.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Who wants to go first?
I feel like I'm always going first, and I feel like Paul never goes first. So I think Paul should go first.
I was going to say the exact opposite, and that's that you've had a good long break, Trev, and you're ready to give up 4 picks.
That's the thing, is the first pick you've got that extra 4th pick. It's a lot of pressure. I don't know. Like,
I can go first. If
all right, James.
You know what? I'll take it. I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Okay.
It's no big deal. I'm going to go back to the early days of the Xbox 360, when it was kind of starving for games and there wasn't a whole lot going on. But then a little game called Dead Rising came out.
Oh, yes. Frank West.
The tale of Frank West and all those zombies on screen back in 05 or 06, whenever that came out. That was super impressive, and that game was so much fun to play, just, screwing around in the mall and trying to find the wackiest way to wipe out hordes of zombies. That is a perfect zombie experience. Dead Rising.
That is really a good pick. I mean, when I think of my favorite zombie movies, they always involve zombies in a mall. And Dead Rising involved the mall. And I think that's really what made that experience so great, is wandering around a mall. I mean, every so often when I go to a mall, I think, man, if there was a zombie apocalypse, I'd be stuck in this mall. And what would I do? I'd run into Foot Locker and I'd grab a football. What would I do? But I don't know. I think, I don't know where I'm going with this, but great zombie games should have a mall, and Dead Rising had it. So that's what made the game.
Oh, man.
them all. Who's next?
Let's go clockwise today, which means James, you're next.
Okay. I will go to another first in a series with Left 4 Dead, because back in the day when I lived in Kelowna, there was a place called PC Bang where you could go with your friends and play computer games all goddamn night. And one of the ones we would play all goddamn night was Left 4 Dead. It was fantastic.
Well, and wasn't the first one, that was also a co-op game too, as well, right?
It sure was.
I only played Left 4 Dead 2, and that was one of the greatest co-op zombie games of all time. So I don't know if the original was also...
Oh, the first one was fantastic.
Right.
It was so good.
Yeah, that's a really good pick, James. Do you think we'll ever see Left 4 Dead 3?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I kind of don't think so either.
I think
I'll never say never.
Valve isn't going to make any more first-party games like seriously until VR becomes commercially viable with a large enough install base. Until then,
all right,
no more games from Valve.
Interesting.
All right, Trev, what do you got?
Let's see. I've got a couple games in mind that I feel I feel like these two games have made probably every second perfect list that we've ever had. But I'm
okay. I know what they are.
Yeah, I'm going to go with one of them just because it's my first pick, and let's just get one of them out of the way. But I'm going to go with Telltale's The Walking Dead. We've talked about it to death. It's a game that tugs at your heartstrings. It's got a compelling story. It's unbelievably intense, and I love season 1 so much. So I am going to go with Telltale's The Walking Dead.
Great pick. Really great pick. Yeah, I really have nothing to say about that other than we've talked about it a lot of times for a very good reason. And the story of Clementine and Lee as they go along, it still gets me a little choked up just thinking about it.
Absolutely.
My next pick is going way back to the Super Nintendo days, where I'm going to pick Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Oh, right out of left field. Oh my God.
That is out of left field.
I love that game. It's so Super Nintendo. It is so early 90s. It makes little to no sense. And the gameplay is mediocre to good. But it is a true treasure on the Super Nintendo, and one that anyone with the means to do so should play.
Yeah, it's I have fond memories of that game when I was a child. It's a delight.
All right, James.
I'm gonna go with, I don't know. Dead Rising was pretty good. Left 4 Dead was pretty good. Resident Evil is pretty good. However, as much as the newer ones are pretty solid, I honestly really liked Resident Evil 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty solid. It's still in that space where stuff like translation and controls were maybe not as polished as they could be, but it was cool. It was really cool.
Especially at the time it came out, there was nothing that was really pushing that genre forward. Like Resident Evil, sure, that was a thing, but Resident Evil 2 really took that to another level and stepped it up in ways that American developers for sure were not even thinking about looking at games that way. So I think that was a big turning point for games in general. So I think that's a good pick.
My next pick, I'm going to go with a game that I don't really think of as a zombie game, but at its core, it's absolutely a zombie game, and it's terrifying. and the sequel is probably one of the most anticipated sequels for the PS4. I am going to go with Last of Us. I mean, it's another game that's made a ton of our lists. It sold well, it reviewed well, everybody loved it, yada, yada, yada. It's, but, I mean, I think of some of those segments involving, I don't think they called them zombies, they called them the infected, but that's basically what zombies are. They're infected. I think about some of those, and they were tense, and they were terrifying, and I loved it. So my second pick's going to be The Last of Us. Locking it in.
All right.
No argument here.
No, that's a perfect pick. Perfect pick for the perfect list, man.
Simply perfect.
All right, for my third of 4 picks, I'm going to go with a game that came out a few years ago, and I thought it really did a good job of playing with day and night and making...
Ooh, I know what you're going to pick.
The apocalypse seem like a tense situation, and that game is Dying Light.
I feel like Sean would be very proud right now. He'd be like, yes, that is absolutely a great pick. I would pick this game. It's well deserved. In fact, why didn't you pick it first? But yeah, Sean would be very proud of you right now.
I mean, there's not much you could say other than it's a fantastic achievement in first person zombie avoidance and killing.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of the elements that made great zombie games previously and uses them to great effect and creates a pretty fucking solid final product.
Oh, that game's on my pile of shame. It's one of the games on my dirty pile of shame.
Well, I'll tell you what, Trev. Everybody I talked to who's played it would absolutely wag their fingers at you. And, rightfully so.
There's no worse feeling in the world than getting a stern finger wagging. No worse feeling.
I feel like there's a lot of worse feelings, but it's pretty bad.
It's right up there. It is right up there.
I had a cavity filled this morning. That was a worse feeling than a finger wag.
But I mean, in reality, can you confirm that the dentist was not wagging his finger in your mouth?
Right, like for eating too much. James, you're eating too much candy. You're drinking too much pop, and he gave you a stern finger wagging.
Maybe while I wasn't paying attention, but I mean, I didn't like feel it in my psyche or anything, so I'm going to say no.
Not yet, my friend. Not yet.
Okay, so I got one more pick. Is that
you do.
How's it going? Okay, well, in
last
that
pick,
case,
make it a good one.
Well, no. Now that you said that, I'm gonna make it a terrible one. I'm gonna go Plants vs. Zombies.
Oh, that's a great pick. That was gonna be my last pick, but that's a good pick.
Well, because like it's pretty basic looking, right? It's a pretty simple ass game. It doesn't have a lot going on as far as like graphics or sound or any of that nonsense. But it still manages to capture that sense of impending dread that comes from the horror just getting worse and worse, and there being not a whole lot you can do about it.
Right. It's addicting. It's rewarding. It's exciting. Yeah, I loved it. I played it for hours on my phone, like hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, played the shit out of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, Trev, what do you got, buddy? It's your last pick.
I'm going a little outside of the box. I am going to go with Call of Duty World at War Zombies mode. And I'm going with this game because it was the first time Zombies mode was introduced in a Call of Duty game. Now, it is not the best, it's not the perfect Call of Duty Zombies experience, but it's the one that started it all. It's now become a giant part of the franchise, a giant part of every Call of Duty game. It's intense. It's a horde mode. Over the years they've had quirky, gimmicky characters, horror characters, all sorts of goofy things about it, but it's a mode that fans love and keep on coming back to. So I'm going to go with Call of Duty World at War, the Zombies mode.
Now that is a good number 10.
Yeah. That's my last pick, too.
That is a very good pick. Yeah, I mean, those modes kind of get a bad rap, but I've always enjoyed them, at least for a little while. They're a nice distraction from the typical deathmatch, and a nice way to play along with your friends instead of having to literally kill each other.
They have huge followings to the point where there's forums upon forums that talk about, you know, where all the Easter eggs are and where all the secret locations, secret this, secret that. Like, yeah, it's they're way more involved than you'd think they'd be. That to the point where if you are a hardcore fan of these modes, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
For the final pick, I'm a little torn. I'm guessing that for this list, we're going with a pretty pure definition of what counts as a zombie.
I mean,
well,
if you want to throw in a dark horse, like, make your case, right?
Like, are we thinking of strictly the shambling infected, or are we considering any creature that has lost its so-called mind and is now a shambling horror?
I could roll with that.
Okay, what you got?
Okay, if we're gonna expand it to that, my pick would be Bloodborne.
Oh,
interesting.
That is interesting.
Because there's something afoot in the world of Bloodborne, and all the enemies, they don't attack each other, just like zombies don't, but they do attack you, and they want to eat your face.
Well, that's a big part of being a zombie, is eating faces. So there's that.
I mean, if we're happy with that definition, my pick is definitely Bloodborne.
Well, it's a perfect pick then.
All right. I say absolutely put it on the list, specifically because there will be people who disagree with you, and that's always fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my favorite part about writing and now podcasting in general, is that people love to say some incredibly rude things to you. Like, wow.
Yeah, they do. They sure do.
What was that Tyler Treese said the other day in our Slack? It was something like somebody told him to get run over by a bus, something.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm just scrolling here. I'm gonna find it.
Well, he had his God of War article that did really well this weekend, and the title of his article, which you can find on COGconnected.com under the features section, God of War's open world structure hurts its story. Now, of course, if you read the article, which probably 90% of the people on N4G did not do, they just are quick to comment, are quick to burn Tyler by the, they're just quick to just crucify him. But, Tyler does make some great points in that article. But, did he ever get lit up on N4G? Like, 200 comments lit up.
That is specifically how you know you did it right.
Yep.
I don't always agree with Tyler, but that was a very well written article and very well researched. So, yeah, the people who are commenting, they definitely didn't bother to do their research.
It was when he pitched the idea to me. I was like, my first response was like, yeah, no, like I don't see where you're going with this. And then but he shared a little bit of insight into what he was going to write about. I'm like, actually, that'll be pretty good. I want to read that. That's fully approved. So.
All right, I found the comment. It is, WTF, what a waste of time. Tyler Treese, I hope your soul gets butt fucked by the devil himself, you media whore.
That is. Does he not put that on his business card or something like that? Like,
Oh no, that's a
would.
different one. He put a different one as a business card. On his business card it says that's a little further up. His business card says, "Tyler Treese, you are a spineless fucking coward accusing people without evidence, and don't try to take the moral high ground, you fuckwit."
Fantastic.
Good on Tyler for kind of laughing that off. But oh boy, that's. Oof.
Yeah, it's a tricky job being on the internet. Let's put it that way.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
So anyways, the perfect list of 10 perfect zombie games, we have Dead Rising, Dying Light, Left 4 Dead, The Walking Dead by Telltale, Plants vs. Zombies, The Last of Us, Resident Evil 2, Call of Duty World at War Zombies, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and Bloodborne.
That is a perfect list.
That is a perfect list.
God, it's perfect. How do we do this every time?
It's like, yeah, it's unbelievable.
I mean, I could scarcely believe it.
I think that's it.
Oh my god, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking, what did we miss?
I don't think we missed anything.
We were thorough.
It was a perfect list. It was a perfect pod.
Perfect cast with the perfect list on the perfect day of the week, that being Wednesday, May the 16th, 2018. It's episode 17. This was Press X Podcast. We've been Paul, James, and Trevor. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you should get on our Facebook group or email us. But definitely give us a review and a thumbs up on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And until next time, take her easy.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh yeah,
Bye.
this is for Sean. Bye bye. I don't know how I hit that high note.
It's good work, man.
Wow, very impressive.